What's up, YouTube? This is Sinkay 101. I'm back on SGN today, and this is an RPG Maker VX Ace tutorial. Quick explanation. Many of you, well, I don't actually know if any of you know. If you subscribe to my channel and you keep up with my videos, and maybe saw my iBuyPower video, you guys should know I'm using Windows 8 now. And RPG Maker 2003 doesn't like to work with it. I've tried recording it like literally 3 times now. I kid you not. That's why I kept giving you updates. I have attempted and attempted and attempted, and it doesn't want to work. So I'm going to give you this instead. I mean, it should be able to relay over most of the information. I mean, there's going to be some new features, obviously, that won't relay over. But if you see something in RPG Maker 2003, you could probably see the same thing here. If you don't see something on RPG Maker 2003 that you see here, then obviously it's not a feature of that program. Most information should relay over just fine. And so yeah, if you're an RPG Maker VXAce user, great, you're going to get a tutorial today. And we're going to try to get a bunch in one. I'm not going to separate it like I did before because that tends to screw up my process. You guys know I'm really bad at continuing series, and that's completely my fault. That's just how I am. And one final note. Why I've been gone for so long is when you try to record videos and they don't work, like I've literally had problems for the last month trying to record another video. Found out I accidentally switched off my microphone on my recording software, and so it hasn't been recording my audio. Thus, I just figured out today the irritation has been killing me, and so I never really looked into it, but I finally figured it out. So all that behind us, let's get started. Okay, so first of all, excuse me, gosh. First of all, let's get a project started here. We're going to do a new project. I am using the Steam version. Be aware of that. If you're using the non-Steam version, there may be a couple buttons you may not have. I don't know if this is even available in the non-Steam version, but we will. If it does, great. If it doesn't, alright. Well, I'm using the Steam version, just so you know. Okay. New project. Okay, so now we got our new project. I'm going to name this a YouTube tutorial series. You can name yours whatever you want. Choose this location. This is what the name of the folder will be, and this is actually the title of the game that will appear up here. And if you use the overlay title that RPG Maker VX Ace features, it'll show up there too. If you don't know what that is, I'll explain in a minute. Anyway, let's get this started. Alright. So, now we have our map here. Big, not really big, just our map. Alright. So we're going to go over a quick mapping tutorial after I get these buttons out of the way, what they do and everything. Excuse my phone. If you hear the ding in the background, it happens a couple times when I get emails and stuff. You know, Facebook goes off, and it's been going off recently because it's glitching out. It keeps sending me the same request over and over and over. Anyway. Alright, so first of all these buttons can also be found in these buttons. So I'm going to go over these ones so you don't get confused. Actually, you know what? Let's just go over these ones. Alright. Excuse me. Alright, so this is obviously a new project. And as you can see, if you hover over it, it will pop up. So that's how you start a new project. This is open project, obviously. Save project. This tool, cut. That's more for if you actually select something like, if you were to select this. Actually, it's not working. Excuse me. It's supposed to work, though, I thought. Yeah, it's supposed to. It's not, though. Anyway. And then we got copy, paste, delete. Which, that works, clearly. But I wouldn't advise using those. Just use the keyboard, because you don't really need to cut and paste. If you do, I can show you how another way that's easier. Undo, obviously, if you want to know what that does. If you were mapping and you're like, oh crap, I didn't want to do that, and you didn't want to go back and erase it, just undo it. You know, I think it works for multiple actions too. Undo, undo, undo. Yep. Excuse me. All right. So this is your map layer where all this happens. All right. Now differences from RPG Maker VX 2000 or from RPG Maker 2003. With this. Many of you remember that had the first layer, the second layer, and the event layer. That's different in VXAce. Be aware of that. RMVXAce has different layers within the one, so you can actually have, I think, up to 5 or 6 layers down here. So be aware of that. This does look different. It still acts the same way. I'll explain it more in the mapping part. Anyway, our event layer where all the magic happens, you remember that? Looks the same pretty much. Alright. And then this is region mapping. This is not in 2003, I do not think. I'm pretty sure it's not. Might be, might not be. I don't think it is though. It may be different though. If it is, it's gonna be different. I know that. What this is, like, quick explanation. You see here we got our troops. Well, I'll get more in depth with this in a little bit. Basically later on in the tutorial. But this is where your monsters spawn. And let's say you had a monster like slime. It can either spawn in the whole map, or when you're walking around and you can find it, or you can specify region IDs, regions it'll show up in. So, let's say you're making a Pokemon-like game. Let me throw together something really quick here to get an example of what I'm saying. Okay, and I will explain this. Don't freak out when I'm switching things. Okay. So you got, maybe you want to try to make something like Pokemon. Okay, you got tall grass, tall grass, tall grass, tall grass. Okay. Now what you would do, let's say the Pikachu spawn here. Okay. Only Pikachu spawn there. Only Squirtles spawn here. Only whatever else spawns here. Yeah. Pretty much, okay, actually, I was just using Pokemon example because I know Pokemon does the tall grass thing. What you could also use, maybe you have, in RPG Maker terms, skeletons here, knights here, giant bugs here, and demons here. Okay? Nothing will spawn out here unless you say whole map. If you suggest that the monster spawns on the whole map, it'll spawn anywhere without regions. Regions just limits the monster's spawn, okay? For that specific monster, or you can limit all monster spawns to regions. So that's what that is. We'll get into more in depth in a little bit, but yeah, that's pretty much what that does. We get rid of all these regions. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's continue. This is your pencil tool. It allows you to draw freehand. This, obviously, squares. Let me get that out of the way. If you're wondering how I'm doing that, I'll explain that in a minute as well. Okay? And then circle, that makes circles. RPG Maker style, I guess. And then fill, obviously, does what fill would do. What fill would do. This is if you want to make custom shadows, like the buildings will automatically do. Whoa. Hold the phone. So sorry about that. Didn't mean to do that. Buildings kind of make their own shadows, you see, but maybe you don't like how the shadows are done. You can actually do your own. Okay, so you can add your own shadows for whatever you want to do. Make it more in depth, I guess. You could if you want. I don't actually ever mess with my own shadows, but you could. It's definitely a possibility. Alright, this is just zooming tools. Make your map bigger or smaller. Better for bigger maps. Like if you got a world map, you might want to use 1/4 or 1/8. So yeah. This here's our database. This is where everything, character-wise, classes, all that is set up. You know, basically the internal game parts without actually going into the game scripts and modifying them. This is where everything happens. We're not going to get into that just yet, but we will. Okay? Resource Manager. This is for the importing and exporting of resources. By exporting, if you want to modify something that's already in here, you can export it and modify it. And also preview resources, obviously. Like, let's see, let's go find this character we're using. Actor 1 is probably in here. No. He'll be Actor 4. Actor 4, there he is. And you can export it, modify it, whatever. Importing. You can also import if you have resource you want to import. Now, I don't know if this button's in the actual RPG Maker RMVXAce non-Steam version, but I'm pretty sure it would be. I don't see why not. But it may not be. if you have the Steam version, what this is, if you purchase DLC on Steam, you can click on this and it brings you to the DLC page where you can import all your resources right away. Okay? So yeah. That's what Resource Manager is. We'll get more in depth later, as we will with all of this. Script editor, this is the game itself. You don't, if you're new to RPG Maker or you don't even know how to use Ruby, I would not advise messing with any of this. This is the core game. Don't touch any of it. It could mess it up. Now, it won't mess up the program. It'll just mess up the game you're working on. Okay? If you ever want to import custom scripts, which I will explain to you, they all happen down here. You can mess with this. Don't delete these, though. Don't delete anything. Never delete any of this except for custom things you put in. Okay? So that's that. Music, this is just so you can listen to music and test it, I guess. Like, if you want to hear it while you're mapping, I usually use it for that. Like, just be like, if that killed your ears, I'm sorry. That was really loud on my end. I don't know how loud it'll be in the video. But you can listen to music or sound effects while you're mapping. Yeah, pretty basic. Pitch, will actually adjust the pitch of it. Let's turn that down a bit. Also kind of slows it down and speeds it up. But yeah, you get the picture. This is not available in RPG Maker 2003. I'm not sure. This is VXAce exclusive. You can make custom characters here, which I will show you how to do and explain. Well, I mean, it's pretty basic, but I'll explain it when we get to that portion where we need to. But we don't really need to mess with this right now, so that's just what that is. Manage project is obviously the button I was talking about. May or may not be in VXAce normal. I'm using the Steam edition. This is probably what this is for. I think this is for Steam only because you can see it's got workshop support. If you are using Steam version, what this is for, you can manage project. Let's delete this from the cloud. It saves all your projects to cloud with Steam as well. You can easily switch between projects here and all that. You can select graphics for them, and set them to play only, stuff like that, to where you can lock it out, things before you actually upload it. You can also upload them to the workshop from here. But we don't need to mess with this ever. You might want to, I'm not going to, so we're not going to really. Okay. And this is playtest. I'm not going to press it because it messes up my recording every time I do. Okay. So, first things first, let's do the mapping tutorial. What I want you guys to do, you can use this basic map if you want, but I'm not going to. I always delete map 001 because I hate it. I don't know why, I just do. And then we're going to create, oh yeah, these buttons. Obviously, copy, paste, delete is what I was talking about. You can do it easier there. We'll get these buttons in a minute. Load sample map, I'm not going to use, but this is for if you are lazy, I guess. Or not necessarily lazy, maybe you just like these maps. You can load up a map, and you got one map for you. You can start eventing, I guess. So that's up to you if you want to try that. I really don't do that a whole lot. I do it occasionally when I'm bored. But I don't mess with it. So let's get a new map. And I'm going to name this, excuse me, our spawn zone. Now let's explain this mapping thing. This name will not show up in the game. No one sees this except you in the database. Display name. Whatever's here will actually pop up in the corner when the game's playing saying, hey, you're in this map. That's pretty much so people know where they're at. That's if you have nothing there, nothing will pop up. If you do, then it's going to be like, huh, welcome. No. It'll say you're in welcome. So that's what we'll display for them. Battle back. When you're doing battle sequences, you can actually specify custom ones instead of letting the tile set do it, which the tile set tends to, I think. You can actually specify on this map what the battle back will look like, okay? So, you can kind of customize that, do whatever you want. If you want, we're not going to do that. We don't specify on battle backs, or at least I don't. You can. Auto change BGM. When you enter the map, this will pretty much the music that it'll play. Make it play some music if you want. We're not going to for... Actually, yeah, let's make it play something. Just for tutorial sake. Let's turn it down some. Yeah, like that. That's going to be playing. Background sound when you enter the map. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Tile set. This is which tile set you're going to be using. Like over here. Which set of graphics you're going to be using to do the mapping. In this case, we're going to make an outdoor map, so exterior. Actually, you want to know what they are individually first. Field, that's more for world mapping. As you saw, field was the default. That's if you want to make a big world map. Let me give an explanation. I'll give an explanation of each of them in the mapping. But let's start, yeah. Width, let's make it 25 by 25. Whoa. These cannot exceed 500, and they cannot go below certain numbers as well. So they were default at the smallest they can go, I think. Scroll type. This is like if you, let's say I may have these backwards because I get a little confused sometimes. Vertical loop, if I'm correct, that'll make it to where if you were to walk to the top of the map, it'll automatically take you to the bottom and make it look as if it was a seamless transition. I can explain that when we play test it. But yeah, same with horizontal, the map will just loop, or both. You can make it to where when you walk either way it loops. So that's what that does. I don't know what situation you'd be using that for unless you were making like a town making simulator or something, I guess. Okay. Parallax background. I will explain that in a minute. That's a little more confusing. Not really confusing, but I'll explain it when we use it. Disable dashing. Will the player be able to actually run, which you are able to in RMVXAce by default, by holding shift, I believe. And if you disable this, that means they can't run on this map, and we're going to disable it. Encounters, obviously I explained, these are monsters that will spawn. You can specify different region IDs, which we will not get into just yet. Notes, only you see these. Like if you want to write a note, be like, this is where big king event happens in Act 2. So you don't forget if you take a break from it or whatever. You can leave it there. It'll stay. Alright. Now, an example I was going to use for all these. Field, like I said, it's more for world mapping because you see you can take this and you can make little small towns. Like if you guys remember the classic Final Fantasy games, you can make little villages where you can walk into. That's what that's for. World mapping. Okay? But then you have exterior, which is made for making towns. You can make bigger buildings, obviously. See that? And then you got interior for your inside the houses. I'm not going to even show that because that's pretty basic. We're going to map one of each eventually. So, and then dungeon is for your dungeon maps. You can make really crazy looking dungeons. See? Yeah. Excuse me again. We're going to make an exterior map today. Okay, so first of all, we're going to take this. Quick mapping tip. If you ever have something on the thing, like here, like for instance, it's all the way down, or actually even like here, and you don't want to scroll down to it, I guess it's just me being lazy, but if you ever right click on it, it'll automatically select that tile. It'll automatically select it. Catch my drift. Now, one exception to this that's kind of annoying, if you use tiles like this where their backgrounds are transparent, like that, you place it there, and you place one here. If you select this one, it's going to also select everything above it. Select this one, same goes. So you got to be careful with some of these. You may not get what you want. So that's just that. I'll be doing that a lot, so don't get confused. I will also be doing this where I'll Control Z to undo things, and Control C to copy, all that. Alright, so let's make a little basic town. First of all, what I always like to do with a town, we like to make it fantasy looking. How do we do this? Well, we got our grass, obviously. Now we're going to go to pencil tool and get some taller grass. Okay, and we're just going to scribble like you've never scribbled before. It's going to be crazy scribbling. Okay, then it looks pretty messy and not too good. Well, then you take your other grass and scribble again. And you can do this as many times as you want, just until you like it. You can even fine thin it, which I do sometimes, which by that I mean you can actually do this, okay? And let's say we're calling that good. well, then you see some spots you think should be adjusted, like you should separate these or do that, whatever. But I tend to do that for the randomization of the world. Okay? And then after that, if you want to add water, I would add water, and after you do this, for that very reason, it's going to kind of hard to do that and not get into the water with scribbling. Alright, then next. First, oh yeah, I should also explain these are different layers. This is the bottom, then the next, then the next, so on and so forth, kind of. Okay? So. Next, let's add some basic stuff to make it look more world-like. We're going to use trees like this. Let's just place them randomly about. If they're in the way later, you can just, of course, move them, delete them, whatever. But I like to just make a randomized little look here. Yeah, just throw some, scatter them about. And let's do this. Let's make a little forest situation going on over here. It's kind of going to be like a barrier. Let's do this. This. Okay, so kind of got a forest going on over there. I guess why not? For whatever reason, the trees are just thicker there. And you know what? Let's use that to make the entire barrier of the village we're gonna have here. Let's undo some of this then. Okay, so we're going to use this to make a village barrier. There are better ways of doing this. This is just how I'm going to do it. Yeah, I get confused sometimes, so bear with me. That's wrong. Maybe it's that one. That looks right. Okay. We got that. Now what we're going to do is pretty much, you know what, let's not even do that. It's just going to get too complicated for me and get confused. Okay. Now I got some trees laid down. Let's throw some of this crap. What I do, I usually just go all over, just click at random. Okay. And if you think there's too many of them or they're too close together, you overlap them later with different ones. Okay. Then we're going to take our next set. Like maybe you notice, hey, these two are really close or something. You don't want them to, just overlap it, whatever. Just throw them about. That's just kind of my method of doing things. Here. We're just going to throw some of this, some of this. Yeah, let's make it nice. Let's get it good. Go some more. I like to use a little bit of everything to make this little randomized fantasy forest kind of look. Just depends on the map you're doing also. Let's get some flowers. Let's put some more flowers individually here. Let's give it that look. A fantasy. Okay, so you get the picture on that. It's just kind of making it fantasy. Throw it about, make it look nice. This will obviously be different mapping methods for different situations. So yeah. Okay. Now we got that going. Oh yeah, we need some rocks. Just a couple rocks here and there also. Add to that look. Quickly throw it together. I don't like that. Okay. Now then, we got our little fantasy look going. Let's begin making something like a house. Let's make a basic house. We're in the forest, so let's make it like a little woodsy house out of wood. Okay, so you can overlap anything by this point, of course, because you got to place your houses, obviously. Let's do that. And the roof right there. You have a house right there. Now you can make adjustments. You think things are too close or shouldn't be there or whatever, like this. Maybe we want that gone. because we don't like it there. Whatever. Okay. And then he's gonna have, let's say, a little farm. Our character's gonna have a little farm here. Gonna overlap that. Actually, you know what? You know what? It's gonna overlap from the house. Let's do this. He built around this tree here. Yeah, like that. That should work, sort of. Yeah. Okay. Now we got that. Just gonna have some plants growing here, just along the edges. No, let's do it right here. It's got a little field, and let's put some plants in there. Yeah. Yeah. It's got some just growing, and then that. Alright. Got some lumber. Maybe that. I know I should probably be at the other end, but well. It's got a hole dug from one of the animals. Alright. We got that. Yes. Maybe. No. No, okay. So now we got all that going for us. Now you can actually use some of this if you wanted to. I'm not going to because I don't need it in this situation, but you could. Just different things, you see, obviously. Now we got all that. We could make a hill, I guess, but we're not going to. And let's actually make a little pond. I feel like we need a pond here, like right over here. And just to make things easier, let's just make it extend out here. Let's give it a lake-like look. Yeah, I like that. It's got some little water extending that maybe go into the next map. Alright. Now that we got all that, that is a basic map. You've got a tutorial on how to map now. I hope you understood that. If you didn't, leave a comment or something. I can reiterate that some more in another video. Alright. So by this point, I'm probably going to cut the video around here and to split it into part 2. Or it will be the event mapping, whatever. So I'm going to split the video right about here. I'll see you in the next one.